Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session, Navigating the Changes Landscape of Information Security Leadership, Best Practices. And I am Ritika Chakraborty. I will be your host for the day. Before we get started, we would like to go over a few house rules for our attendees. The session will be in listen-only mode and will last for 1.5 hours, out of which last 20 minutes will be dedicated to Q&A. If you have any questions during the webinar to the organizers or our panelists, use the Q&A window. Also, if you face any audio-video challenges, please check your internet connections or you may log out and log in again. And very important announcement for our audience. As a commitment to closing the cybersecurity workforce gap by creating multi-domain cyber technicians, ECCouncil pledges $3.5 million towards CCT education and certification scholarships to certify approximately 10,000 cyber professionals ready to contribute to the industry.
Did you know that you can be part of the lucrative cybersecurity industry? Even top companies like Google, Microsoft, Amazon, IBM, Facebook, and Dell all hire cybersecurity professionals. The cybersecurity industry has a 0% unemployment rate. The average salary for an entry-level cybersecurity job is about $100,000 per year in the United States. Furthermore, you don't need to know coding and learn from your home, and you get a scholarship to kickstart your career. Apply now. ECCouncil is pledging a $3.5 million CCT scholarship for cybersecurity career starters. Scan the QR code on the screen to apply for the scholarship. Fill out the form.
If you want to know more, kindly visit our website given in the chat section. Also, we would like to announce to our audience that our entire webinar, if you are attending, which is 1.5 hours, and you want a CPE certificate, then you can please write to us on CyberTalk's email ID. And that also we will be given in the chat section. And we would like to announce to our audience about the special handouts. Take the screenshot of this running webinar and post in your social media, LinkedIn or Twitter, tagging ECCouncil and use the hashtag CyberTalks. We will share free handouts to our first 10 audience. And right now, without any further delay, I am handing over the mic to our moderator, Patrick. Over to you, Patrick.
Thank you, Ritika. Very pleased and happy that I am able to be the moderator for this session. As a alumni of the Master's Education of ECCouncil, I was happy to help and support our community to grow and to learn. And with me are Dan Lohrmann. Please wave, Dan. Say hello.
Hi, how are you? Good to see you.
Hello, good to see you. With us is Alexandre. Alexandre, hi, just wave. And with us is also Dr.
Hi, hello.
And Michele, but they're having some technical difficulties and are not on video, but they're definitely on audio here to contribute, so that's great. Before we go into a small round of introductions of everybody, I was very happy and surprised to see that between the 5 of us, we share more than 100 years of experience in cybersecurity. So, audience, be ready for something. Here we go. Dan, would you like to take your introduction for a quick round?
Sure. Thank you very much, Patrick. It's great to be with everyone. I appreciate the opportunity to be with you today. My background is I started my career at the National Security Agency, and I was in England with Lockheed and Mantech in the 90s. I now am in Michigan. I was in Michigan government for 17 years in a lot of different roles. CIO, CISO, CTO, Chief Technology Officer, Chief Security Officer. I'm now with Presidio. I'm a field Chief Security Officer. Mainly work with public sector governments all over the world, but some of the private sector as well, and blog for CSO and Government Technology magazines. It's great to be with everyone, and I look forward to the conversation.
Hey, thank you. Happy that you were able to join. Alexandre, over to you.
Sure, thanks. So also warm welcome from out of Switzerland. Yeah, also my background, well, a couple of years well, in the security field, also several roles as CISO, and then also other consultancy security roles, also in various industries, finance, also insurance companies, logistics, and actually now also in cryptocurrency. So that's also one thing which is obviously a big environment which you have to secure. And here we're not just talking about securing data, but obviously also securing digital money. So also really a fascinating field.
Right, good stuff, good stuff. Erdal, you're with us? You want to
Yes,
do a small
I am.
round of introduction? Great.
All right, Erdal Ozkaya. Currently, I work at Xcitium Cybersecurity as the Chief Information Security Officer. And before that, I was with Standard Chartered Bank, again as CISO. Before that, at Microsoft as CISO advisor. Like my panelists, friends, multiple years working as CISO and you know, traveling the world, giving advisory about what's happening, trying to secure organizations, people, and of course, trying to help people to build the right process to stay secure. Let's chat later.
Right, perfect. And I saw you were also a TEDx speaker on your profile. Is that correct?
Correct, I am, yes.
All right, nice. Good to hear. And last but definitely not least, Michele.
Yes, hi all. Thanks for joining today. My name is Michele Myauo. I have over 20 years of experience in cybersecurity. I come out of the US intelligence community. I was with IBM for about a decade, Microsoft for about a decade, building and scaling a cybersecurity services practice, as well as leading an engineering team, building the commercial top secret and secret clouds. And now I work for Accenture, and I'm the North America Public Services and Health Lead. So thanks for joining us, and I look forward to the conversation.
Yes, thank you, Michele. Happy that you could join. And my name is Patric J.M. I am a self-employed contractor based out of the Netherlands, previous CISO at ABN AMRO Clearing Bank, large charities, the Dutch government, police, fire departments, and currently holding the position of CISO at Viterra, a large agriculture company. For everybody that's now have joined, welcome, welcome in the morning, welcome in the afternoon, or welcome late in the evening. Happy that you could join. I like to go off the rails with these kinds of sessions, and I definitely want to do that from the start. So I'll pick my first victim. Dan, you're it, tag. There was a nice article in the Times of India today stating that in 2023 we're going passwordless. Now, in the past, we as a cybersecurity community have talked to our senior leadership, to our IT operations fellows, to anybody in the company who wanted to listen. Passwords need to be complex, they need to be lengthy, they need to be changed every 30 days. You need to have two-factor authentication. You need to make it as tough as possible. And now we're going passwordless. How will you explain that as a leader to your senior management?
Yeah, thanks, Patrick. Great question. And I think, you know, passwords, I like to keep it simple as much as possible when you're talking to the board, but really anyone, even if somebody in my community asks me that, I get that question actually quite often. And I say, you know, right out of the gate that the bad news recently in the last few years is that no matter how complex your password is, and we certainly, you know, have taught that in the past, you need complex passwords and all the rest of it, phrases, long, you know, mixture of capital, lowercase, etc. The bad actors often have those in the dark web now because they've hacked databases. And so it could be a long, complex password today. And the challenge still is that could be stolen. It could be copied because that database has been hacked. And so many credentials are available in the dark web. People can buy them very cheaply. it's very easy. So as Facebook describes it, we need to do password plus another step. There's a lot of ways you can explain it, multi-factor authentication. Obviously, there's other steps we can even do where you can email one-time passwords, etc. But let's just say you're trying to move to multi-factor authentication. I just explain it simply to the board, to individuals as, look, even if someone has my password in Russia and they have my login information, my username and my password, it could be a long, complex one. If they don't have this other factor, whether that be a text coming to my cell phone or an email coming to my, account, verifying that it's me, a second step, they're not going to be able to log in, because if it's not a trusted device, it's not going to work. So at a very simple level, that's how I try to explain it. Say we're moving forward. We need now to use multi-factor authentication, and that's hopefully a simple way you can explain that to the board.
Okay, thank you. Michele, you stated you're leading the cybersecurity practice at Accenture for the public sector. Willing to comment on the adoption rate that you see in that public sector about passwordless and moving away from all these technical, tough implementations, and the adoption rate with users?
Yeah. So thanks for the question. I lead health and public services for Accenture, so state and local governments, education, nonprofits, and then parent provider. So what I see in the state and local arena is that actually this is going to be the year of identity. The National Association of CIOs, NASCIO, which is the key industry organization for state and local governments. Typically all the CIOs and CISOs participate in this organization. Identity, cybersecurity is the #1 priority out of all the priorities they have for FY23. And then actually identity and access management is the #1 technical priority. So we're seeing across the country numerous RFPs, which are requests for proposals, which is typically how state and local governments move to contract large procurements, coming out across the nation. So I would say, state and local governments have really kind of woken up to the need to secure identity. They're excited and energized by the opportunity to obtain funds to actually modernize. And really, it's all about the citizen experience, right? And citizens being able to have single sign-on and easily log on to websites that have the whole of state opportunity and services that their residents can take advantage of, right, in a very easy, user-friendly, kind of 2023 way. So I'm definitely, and password is part of that conversation, passwordless, as well as, a lot of the states are kind of looking towards what other countries are doing with digital IDs. But as a lot of folks know, in the US, we don't have kind of a federal law that requires kind of this national digital ID. So it's different states looking at that in different ways.
All right, thank you. To our audience, don't feel left out because you cannot speak. Please use the chat box or the question box to ask questions to our panelists. We want to keep the fire to their, how do you say, shins. And moving forward, so what I hear from you, Dan, and what I hear from you, Michele, is we have emerging problems. We will move possibly to passwordless, but passwords are already sold on the dark web. Assume a breach, maybe, or assume a breached passwords is maybe the term here. My question to you, Erdal, if I walk into the room with my senior leader, who is definitely not a cybersecurity expert, really cybersecurity savvy though, he always wonders about the abbreviations and how I speak, and that I have another problem to present. So how would you characteristics say that your leadership has evolved towards those senior leaders when it comes to those problems and explaining those?
I mean, these days, my job is much easier compared to 10 years ago. 10 years ago, I mean, I think we all experienced the same thing. When we said cybersecurity, when we said hackers, when we talked about viruses, it wasn't that scary, maybe 15 years ago. But today, it's every day on the news. this makes my life a bit easier. Okay, now, even though my life is a bit easier, sometimes it's really still hard to get the budget. I'm not talking about my current role, because in my current role, I'm the CISO in a cybersecurity company, Xcitium. But previously, I was working with country CEOs, cluster CEOs, regional CEOs, and they all had different strategies. They all had different agenda, and it was really hard to get the right budget. It was really hard to get the right approach. But the easiest way for me to convince someone is, these days, I used to say 20 years ago, hey, you know what? Imagine yourself in New York Times headline, your company is hacked. Today, I don't have to do this anymore, but what I say is, look, here's company X. This is their market value before they get hacked, and this is what happened right after the cyber attack. The market value dropped down. Some company, it's not secret. The cybersecurity industry is, I mean, if you don't spend the right amount in the beginning, can cause your business, can cause not just your job anymore. Sometimes cybersecurity can get away lives. What do I mean with that? Just I'm pretty sure some of you will remember that there was a ransomware attack in a hospital in Germany, and most of those machines were connected to the internet. It was a computer, and a lady, 86 years, I think, old lady, died during this ransomware attack. Or another example happened right here in California. I'm right now in California. Hackers tried to attack the water dam, and they tried to change the chemicals to poison millions of people. So when I talk about this, this is eye-opening compared to, hey, your market value will go down. Or again, here in the US, which I am right now, Security Exchange Committee started to fine CISOs for not doing their job properly. Two recent examples. I think you all heard about Uber CISO, who was sentenced 8 years of jail for hiding the attack. So when I put all this fact on the table, and when I show what's happening to similar industries, I'm able to convince the leadership a bit easier compared to 10, 15 years ago, will be my answer.
Okay, thank you. So I'm not always going around robin in this type of panels, but Alexandra, you can imagine that you're up next for the question. You're a CISO at a company, I think, at a crypto company. That's correct?
Yes, correct.
Right. So according to Dr. Erdal, you must be swimming in budget, have money enough to implement everything and go about. Would you like to respond on that one?
I wish. Well, obviously, I wouldn't say we're struggling, but we obviously have a couple of things which are nice. I would even start with we have a less regulated environment, which sometimes is nice, sometimes it's a nightmare, because obviously then, it's always nice to start on a green field, and when you can, start from scratch and there are not much regulations, business really catches up quickly. But I'm sure, as you all know, FTX was really a bad kind of example. And I mean, here we're not talking about small businesses and budgets. That was a big loss, and really also really a reputational damage for the whole cryptocurrency or industry. Coming back to your question, obviously security, we're taking security very seriously. I think we also have to look at different kind of stuff. As I said, industry-wise, we have not just to protect data, but obviously also the cryptocurrency. And what I also called, and you also see more and more providers all over the world popping up, is I call them digital brand protectors. So basically, companies which are looking after any kind of damage in terms of fake posts, fake websites, which can actually damage your community, customers, and obviously also industry. So that's really an important thing, and so you can really also take advantage and then also using those services, so that also your board and company obviously also well, at least use that kind of services, because as I said, we have also other tasks to fulfill, and to do this, similar to penetration testing, either you do it the full day, so it's your full-time job, or then you should really give it to somebody who's doing with that, as I said, professionally. And so those are the things we're dealing with. But basically, we really will try to invest wherever we can in a good way. Also use new services, look at new attack vectors, as I just said, and really to also protect our, as I said, brand or digital footprint, digital brand in a bigger way. I think that's also one thing which changes a couple of years ago, where you just, well, yes, you just had your website out there, and that was made late to protect. Well, things really changed nowadays, and yeah, so that's a big thing which changed.
Patrick, just a quick correction. I never said people will get unlimited budget. This is unfortunately still very hard, but I said it's a bit easier when you put the facts. I mean, thanks for quoting me. According to me, it's not that easy to get the budget, but it's a bit easier compared to 10 years ago. Just a small correction, please.
Yeah, well, I'm looking for these types of corrections, Erdal. That's fine. So, would you like to agree with me that collaboration then is key if we don't have unlimited budgets?
100%. Unfortunately, budget, even in a bank, when I was working as CISO in a bank, was not the case always. But collaboration is the key, and that's why I'm putting the fact. I'm saying, look, one piece of malware costs $5 per minute. Cybersecurity attacks cost organizations up to $3 million, depending on the organization size. And when you put the fact of, hey, you want to lose $3 million plus customer trust plus fines, GDPR, or would you like to give me $200,000 so I can implement my identity management? And when you put this fact, it's a bit easier.
Right. So, Michele, if you agree with Erdal that collaboration is key and crucial in cybersecurity, and you heard Alexandre speak. I tend to do that. I heard some technology words coming from Dr. Erdal. How do you deal with the technical mumbo jumbo in collaboration when you're talking to non-technical teams, to the business? How do you deal with that?
Yes, I mean, it's definitely a good question. We actually, Accenture put out a whole survey with the World Economic Forum earlier this year around cybersecurity and communicating with business owners. So that's a great resource available on the internet. It had a lot of great ideas. But in the end, I think that the simplest way to think about it, and how I like to think about it, is that technology is just an enabler. It's not the destination, right? So the real point of any of the technology, including cybersecurity, is to help us do our mission. If we're a war fighter, it's to help us do that. If it's, if we're an astronaut, it's to help us do that. If we're a firefighter, it's to help us to do that. If we are a CISO for a state and we have a Health and Human Services organization, the real purpose is so folks can safely and securely access those human services that they get through their state in order to better their lives. So I think the real win is when cybersecurity is acknowledged, but seamless, right? And I try to think of it as, kind of what is everybody's incentive, right? And how do people and speak in their language, right? So, if you need to get funds for an organization, you're probably dealing with a financial officer, right? So having a cybersecurity plan and speaking in dollars and cents of, potential cost mitigation versus the reputational and tangible attack is important. And I think, where this really comes to light is when you do something like a tabletop, right? We talk a lot about, have an incident response plan, AKA a plan for when a cyber attack occurs. What are you and your organization going to do? And bringing the full group of folks together. The tabletop I was involved in just a little while ago with a large nonprofit, was around, cybersecurity incident for ransomware at the nonprofit, right? And how that could really negatively impact their message. And, nonprofits have a lot of donors and things like that. And they brought everybody to the table, and it was, like a, 3-hour exercise with some breaks and, a nice little lunch break where people got to talk together. And we had the, chief financial officer, the chief legal officer, the CIO, the CISO, the HR organization, the technical IT operations, and then a few board members, right? And what I found, most interesting, which was really encouraging, is that most of the conversation was from the chief financial officer and the chief legal counsel and the chief marketing and communications officer, right? Because when an attack occurs, there is way more that needs to occur than the technical mitigation. Now, don't get me wrong, the technical mitigation is very important, right? But it was very encouraging to see that, the time wasn't spent with the CISO talking about all the mitigations. It was actually, the chief financial office and legal officer and communications officer saying, okay, now you have that, right? And the person was like, well, yes, my technical team has that taken care of, and we also use our cyber insurance in contact with this person. Now, my bigger concern is, are the people that are clients of ours, right? Like our nonprofit consumers, our messaging, our brand, and keeping our donor information safe, right? So that's just kind of one little vignette of the real importance and purpose of cybersecurity is just to be an enabler. If that answers the question.
Yeah, that answers the question perfectly, because what I grasp from that is that we need to strike a balance between enabling and innovation and helping the business while remaining a security posture. And now then this question for you. They come to me and they say, listen, we want to innovate. You need to enable us. We're a big company, and now we want to deal with this startup that does not have any security certification, that does not have any security audits, sometimes not even people who speak any security, but they are very innovative. So what would you tell your senior leadership if they have a big company they're responsible for and they want to deal with these smaller companies that can bring actual value to the business?
Yeah, it's a great question. And let me just, I will answer that, but tell a real quick story to let you know, like, this whole balance, it is a huge challenge for CISOs. And I'll just tell you a real quick story. And we talked in the pre-session about 20 years ago when I first became the CISO, I almost got fired in this dilemma. And at the time, I was actually I was against Wi-Fi. I was the guy from the security team. I was the CISO. We had this great team, and my boss, who was CIO for the state of California, after CIO for the state of Michigan, then CIO for the U.S. Department of Defense, very famous person, Terry Takai. She wanted us to put Wi-Fi in all of our conference rooms. That was like, at that time, that was a cutting edge issue. Now today, we all say everybody's got Wi-Fi. Come on, Dan. And that issue's moved on, whether that be cloud or Internet of Things or now Gen AI, all these different technologies, cutting edge technologies. Well, at the time, that was it. And I knew it wasn't secure because a bunch of different companies had been hacked recently. The war driving was very popular in Michigan, and anybody could drive around and get into any network. The networks were not secure, and the technology, quite frankly, was not secure. So I had done all my homework. I had known, like, okay, don't do, Wi-Fi. These white papers from NSA, CIA, DIA, FBI said, bad idea, don't do it, not secure. And so I went into this meeting, literally staff meeting, saying, we're going to cancel this project. We're not doing Wi-Fi. We're not going forward. Well, my boss literally said, I want everyone to leave the room but Dan. So they literally got up and ran out of the room. I've never seen a government conference room empty so fast, Patrick. It was crazy. She comes down and sits me, looks me right in the eye and says, if that's your answer, you can't be the CISO in Michigan. And I'm like, what? I'm freaking out because, here I am, I'd gotten all excellence in my performance appraisals for years. I'd literally getting ready to get fired. She said, Dan, I understand your background, your white papers. I understand all the logic. but I've been to Dow, Ford, Chrysler, and GM, and they all have Wi-Fi in their conference rooms. What do they know that you don't know? I'm giving you 1 week to find out, put together a plan on how we're going to do this, or I want your resignation. So for me, this was like a huge turning point in my career, to the point of like, you know, I went back and told my team, we're doing Wi-Fi, we're calling these people up, we're seeing what other people are doing to secure this. We're looking at the techniques and the strategies that they've done. We're doing the comparison in the industry, and we're coming back with solutions because I'm not losing my job. Well, for me, that was, you know, 20 years ago, nobody was talking about enabling CISOs. It was all about saying no. It was all about stopping, you know, projects that were not secure. And quite frankly, that technology at the time was not secure. Although we did some things with MAC addresses and things that were able to help. But my point is really wider than just Wi-Fi, obviously. And back to your question specifically, Patrick, the answers are the same today. And whether that's cloud, whether that's IoT, whether that's Gen AI, whether that's any new technology you're trying to bring into your organization, you've really got to say yes. You got to get to yes. You've got to say, you know, how are we going to do this securely, on time, on budget, with the right level of security? And you need to really think about, okay, doing that comparison. So how do you go about doing that? You find out, you look at their peers, you look at the industry. You know, you're probably not the first one doing something. Now, if you're putting a person on Mars, a human on Mars, and that's, you know, maybe you are the first one in the world doing this, maybe. But likely you're, you know, in government, we're generally not putting a person on Mars. We're generally not doing something that's bleeding edge that no one else has done before you. So you really need to look at what are the solution sets. Looking at, I call it gold, silver, bronze, looking at options, providing management with options on how to securely do that, how to incorporate that new startup you said, how to bring them in, looking at options on how it's been done other places, looking at cost options, looking at, you know, risk. It's ultimately around business risk. And, you know, what are the different options, and how can you then incorporate that and bring that in and offer management a suite of solutions that are going to bring in that company or that new technology or that group of individuals, whatever it may be, in a secure manner that is enabling, that is seen as being giving them options, but is not like basically just saying no.
Thanks for the great answer and the great storytelling. I always like those. War stories are always great. Saying no is definitely something you shouldn't do. But Alexandre, saying no to your personnel and being as hard as they have been, as hard as on Dan, telling them, well, if you don't do this, you're going to get fired. I will most likely have contractors in my team or employees that look at me, well, for you 10 other companies that maybe even pay better. So that's not an answer we can give anymore, or that we can tell our employees or contractors that work for us in our teams. No, you can't work less. No, you can't do this. We need to also enable our teams. How do you retain or attract people in your teams helping you with security?
Well, also a good question, Patrick. Thank you for that. Well, so well, I mean, we also, I think I will also bring up a story. I mean, we also have a couple of contractors or developers which we had also from the Ukraine. So we had also to deal with well, some other issues that you can imagine, moving them from one to the other places. So, but I think that's definitely also one thing I think which I can bring in here in that. So basically, make or do the special or the extra mile, and then bring them to a safe place where they work. I mean, some stayed even there and continue to work, but others we managed actually to move them along, and so which they obviously were very grateful. But on the other hand, they're also doing an excellent job, and we didn't want to lose them. And because I mean, getting other contractors at that time, because we were still implementing some new features of a couple of our apps, would have been, well, also a great disaster, and I guess also big loss in terms of budget wise. So that was really a good thing to do. But otherwise, I think really, well, we try to also do different stuff in terms of educating people, all our users. So not just doing the standard, I don't know, yearly webinar about the new, I don't know, kind of fancy buzzwords. but also to really also to bring them in and also to check it on with real case scenarios in terms of well, if we do any kind of also phishing tests, so that they not just get any kind of, well, I don't know, standard emails, but real well, as I said, real case scenarios, also very precise in our industries. So really cases which we seen and happened. And I think that those kinds of things are really, well, that also very much appreciated by our users, customers, because well, they also feel that we're not just well, doing, I don't know, just the regular job, I would say, but they also see that we really want to protect or bring the security to the next level. And I think if you can also show that, and it's a kind of also mind changer, people are actually doing more than just their regular work, also in security.
Yeah, good answer. So what I grasp from that is give people challenging tasks, new features, new technologies, new things to do. Michele, do you see that also at Accenture? And is that something you employ, that you don't only look at the direct compensation of people, but give them something else?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. You know, I mean, I think, I mean, what we found from, we did a study with the National Association of Counties, and we found that for the county, and did research where we surveyed and then interviewed over 100 counties across the United States. And we found for the county governments, you know, some places have a one-person IT shop, some people have, you know, a larger IT shop, and budgets vary across the states. We found that actually pay was the #1 area of concern for being able to hire professionals and then retain those professionals at the county government level, right? We haven't yet asked that question and have research on that specific question at the state level, but we get some signals that, you know, when we look at different comp structures between the private sector, places like, you know, Microsoft or an Amazon or an Accenture, right, or Google, and state and local governments, I mean, there's usually a clear pay differential. We are seeing at a lot of states where, in order to be competitive, they are raising the salary ranges of those folks. And like any job, it comes with different perks, right? So a lot of folks in the public services are really, you know, pay is important to them, right? Like they need to put food on the table and you know, want to maintain a comfortable lifestyle in a lot of cases, but also that sense of mission and supporting the mission and really contributing to the local society that they live in is a large component, right? Like kind of that do good locally and make a change in my local world, right? And we find that a large incentive because we work with a lot of state and local governments around cybersecurity workforce planning and cybersecurity workforce retention. And that message, amongst others, seems to be very important to that population, right? When I look at a place like Accenture, and some of the places I've worked, you know, I can only speak from my personal experience, but I'm an innovator, right? Like I like to develop and create new and come into a new place and work with a coalition of the willing on a mission to create a new business, to create a new product, to create new services, to create new research. That's what kind of gets me going in the morning. It keeps me going at night. So I would say that, you know, I got into this field because my background is IO psychology, and then I'm a Ph.D. in systems engineering with a focus on cybersecurity. And I just say that to say that the human aspect, like kind of once again, technology is an enabler. We spend, I don't know, 8 to 9 to 10 potentially hours of work a day, maybe, you know, 7 on occasion, right? And you get your vacation. So I think it's really important in order to retain people that that somebody's happy with their career and what they're doing. And if they're not, you know, seeing if you could give them a stretch goal or kind of give them kind of that piece of collaboration. Like we have labs at Accenture. We have a really robust labs environment. We have a large research enclave. So we often talk a lot about moving up or over, but not out. right, of the organization in order to retain really good folks. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I'm really big on like following your passions. You know, obviously being realistic, and what my passion is innovating, and then I choose to focus on public services and the government because I like to bring that level of innovation in order to kind of help impact good, right? Like whether it's, you know, the intelligence community, the DoD, the federal government, or, you know, state and local governments and nonprofits and healthcare, that excites me. So I think it's, you know, just kind of being in tune with people who work with you and their passions. And as you're hiring people, kind of, you know, see if it's a passion fit, right? Because it doesn't, you know, not everything is about the dollars.
Not everything is about the dollar. So let's go over to Dr. Erdal, who's with an actual vendor in the realm of making dollars with security solutions. Do you agree with that?
Honestly, it's really hard to replace good talent. While we all, I mean, to be very honest, I do what I love, and on top of it, they pay me money. And I think there is a great Chinese saying, says, choose your job partner. And, you know, there was one more thing, wisely, because it's really hard to change it after a while. Michele was lucky. She used a psychological component, which is really important in cybersecurity, to switch over her career. But I agree. I think money is not everything. And yeah, I would say I agree.
Right. So money is not everything, and passion is a driving force. Then, do you work for the passion or do you work for the money?
I was going to jump in.
Honestly, I'm going to be very honest.
I think Michele did a great job, and it's amazing how much similarities. I don't really know Michele that well, but we have a lot of similarities. I saw a chart once. You can imagine 3 rings: passion, societal need, and then ability or capability. And then the intersection of those 3, I think, is where the magic is, and where the real, you know, so it's not one or the other. I mean, clearly we have to, you know, feed our family. I have 4 kids, and you know, we have to put food on the table. So no one's going to say, to a certain point, you know, people want to have a competitive job, salary, et cetera. You start throwing in the private sector, you start throwing in stock benefits. I've done a number of blogs on this in CSO magazine and Government Technology magazine, comparing, you know, and I think, you know, Michele did a nice job of kind of walking through, the mission, the career goals, the passion really is important. I do think that, you know, it's also, and then in this context of talking about the CISO, a lot of people listening want to become chief security officers or heading in that direction. It is ability, it is the need, and it is the passion. And I think for me, it's easy to say that overall with your career, because I've been doing this for more than 30 years now, but I think that constantly changes. So I think for individuals, when you start thinking about your own individual career, and my career starting at NSA, moving to England with Lockheed and Mantech, moving to the state of Michigan, moving to Security Mentor, moving to Presidio now, it's, you know, that capability is constantly changing. So we need to be lifelong learners. I think that's a big piece for all of us, where I'm learning new things every day. I learned from you in the beginning of this call, Patrick, when you told me about the article from India. And I realized as I'm halfway through the answer, I'm not really answering passwordless. I was not answering a multi-factor authentication question there. But, you know, whether that be you know, using your iris, your other types of you know, ways, fingerprint, other ways that get access into systems, whatever it is, you're kind of learning that new technology. It's a moving target in cybersecurity. The focus right now is all around Gen AI, right? But I mean, I think that one of the next big things is, you know, going to be where we're going with encryption and quantum encryption. I mean, I always tried to say in my career, you know, I call it the Wayne Gretzky thing in Michigan, but, you know, it's skate to where the puck is going to be. So look at what you're passionate about, but not just today, what's coming next in the industry, and, you know, what's going to be hot over the next decade. Look at those new trends. Gen AI is certainly one of them. There's a variety of others that are going to get hot. you know, and think about what are you excited about, your ability, and then the need in society. I mean, clearly cybersecurity is a hot need. It is global. We saw the numbers earlier, and that's going to continue. I don't see that going away. But then also, what are you excited about as far as your individual skill set? You know, is it around security operations centers? Is it about writing? Is it about research? Is it about some aspect of that? And so I think that's for me, but that's also for everybody on our teams. I mean, I think people, you know, you can have passion, but you can also burn out, right? You can have a skill set, and then that can become old very fast, and Gen AI can come in and they can say, well, we don't need that kind of programmer anymore. So we need to keep working on each of those. The passion, the societal need will change, and then our capabilities and our abilities will change. And when you get that intersection, I think that's when you really have the magic.
So I totally agree with then, but I have to answer your question again, Alexander. Yes, money is important, money is the key, but honestly, there were times, especially in the beginning of my career, where I spent 60, 70 hours of my day, of my week, to learn to be better at my job. And today, I'm in a stage where I can say, yes, I don't just work for money. Honestly, money is important, but it's not everything when it comes to job. To everything besides what Dan said, from my point.
Thank you so much. So I want to close the circle here. Alexander, I started this question with you, and you hear fire and passion in the three other panelists as well. And I would like to see that fire and passion from our audience as well when asking questions. But that as a side note, Alexander, if you hear this, do you agree then that passion and loving what you do comes first over money?
Well, to answer it quickly, I would say yes, but I guess it's my personal opinion. I also agree with Erdal about actually where you are in your career. In the beginning, I guess it's similar like when you actually also do sports. In the beginning, if you don't have any sponsors, it's hard to just survive. Once you get more educated and you're also more known also in the industry, and I guess also you have more experience, then you can also, I wouldn't say just relax or settle down, but obviously then you also bring in more value, I guess, to the game. And yeah, and hopefully then the first thing in the morning is not money, that you're not money driven, but you're more passion driven. And if you have this combination, I guess, anyhow, well, I guess the salary will rather go up than down. But as I said, it's for me personally, it's not the main motivator. I really get up in the morning just to make the world more secure. That's my mantra, and well, I hope I can do this for a couple of years more. And yeah, I think that the rest will just also, I guess, come together. So yes, and that always worked for me so far. And yeah, so I hope
let's dive on that mantra of yours. We stay with you for a second. So I grasp we all in this panel are working for the passion. Money is important because we need to make a living, but we're doing it to keep the world secure. How will you, Alexander, bring that to the new workforce? How will you ensure that you get people that are like-minded, that are passionate about security, and not come into this work field for money?
Well, what I try to do is do something similar like educational path. So basically, when somebody joins you, that you show them that there's some obviously call it career path, but I would rather call it a cybersecurity path. So basically, well, I mean, we don't know what the future will bring, but at least you can show that that person should also have some bigger chances in the future. So it's not just you're now I don't know, working in security operations, and the next 10 years you will be there. So just try also to figure out the way. I know in some companies it's not that easy. Luckily at the moment I'm working in a smaller one. So basically if somebody joins, normally that person has to also bring a lot to the table, and sometimes you're doing things out of your comfort zone and maybe not even only security tasks. But I think normally so far people love it and they really grow with it. And I think also it's from time to time it's also nice to, as I just said, take them out of their comfort zone, but also appreciate it. So their work. So basically also do some team events and get to know them in another way than just in a professional way, I think. And well, that really helps to keep also the relationship. And well, the good thing is not much left. So I say that's also one kind of good thing. So personally, so you know that you are at least doing something right, because otherwise I guess they would have already moved on. And yeah, so those are the triggers we really try to do.
All right. Thank you for the answer. I think a lot of us in the panel and possibly also in our audience are often outside of our comfort zone. And being outside of that comfort zone brings me also to these emerging technologies, because I don't know about the four of you, but I'm often outside of my comfort zone when somebody comes into the room and says, I found this new emerging threat, vulnerability, tool, God knows what. What do you think about it? So I would be wondering, and I'm looking at Michele, because possibly you have a big research apparatus behind you, how you deal with these emerging cyber threats and vulnerabilities coming from these new emerging technologies. And I think ChatGPT, Chat AI, and moderator.ai, and those kind of types of tools are top of mind of everybody. And so what kind of strategies do you employ, and what could you recommend us and our audience, how we keep well within our comfort zone, as I might say, when it comes to these emerging cyber threats and cybersecurity challenges?
Yeah, you know, I mean, I like being outside my comfort zone. I like to explore. I've gone to over 40 countries. I like to eat different foods. I mean, of course, I have my, you know, I'm a creature of comfort as well, but I love technology and new technologies. So, and I'm not afraid to say what I don't know, right? So if somebody comes in and says, hey, have you seen this? I say, no, that's interesting. And I immediately Google it. I don't ping it, but I Google it and check it out, right? So I'll give you, for example, one of my colleagues was really into ChatGPT. He actually took a week off work and said him and his friends were, I think they're working on an app. And he was going to take some vacation time because ChatGPT was moving so quickly, and they had some great ideas, right? So I said, that's amazing. You know, you have vacation time. If that is, you know, if that is how you want to spend it, definitely go for it. I'm interested to hear how it goes. And during that conversation, I'd gone on to ChatGPT for the first time. This was several months ago, right, when it first came out. It was, and he was able to kind of walk me through what he had done and how he used it to make different pictures and how he used it to make stories and all this and all that. So, I mean, I have it on my phone, and I view it as an enabler, just like, I mean, I'll say the biggest, you know, I like to research, so I'd love to just look at different things on the internet, think of different questions. And I liken it to when I was getting my master's degree years ago, or in my undergrad, I had to go to the library. I had a copy card that my parents paid for, and I went to the library and I copied, you know, tons and tons of pages so I could bring that back to my, you know, sorority house, and I could read through it and highlight and then type on my typewriter, and then, you know, use my whiteout tape and then type again. Right? Well, fast forward to my graduate degree, luckily, I had online journals, right? I could go to the online journals of my university, and it was game changer because I could do research at midnight, right? Which is when really my brain kind of turns on and I get innovative ideas, either that or running or biking when I'm outside. So when I'm on the move. So that was a game changer. So when I did my PhD research, I was like, oh my gosh, now I have everything's online. I can have access to webinars and everything I need to quickly cite and synthesize data. And when I look at ChatGPT, I mean, it is that amazing. It has amazing capability to synthesize. I've, you know, asked it to write stories for my son for bedtime. I've asked it to do things like help me with my resume. You know, help me find out new topics and or learn about new things very quickly. And it's just another tool in the tool chest. So I guess I get excited and really hear my voice. I'm a geek like that I really like new technology and innovation. Now that's not for everybody, right? What isn't so exciting to me is kind of doing the same thing day in and day out, and creating the same widget over and over and over again may be more efficient. I like to set up creating the widget. I like to make it efficient. I like it to see it run, for a year or so. But then, somebody else can run that widget, and I'm going to go on and invent the next widget. But some people really loving running the widget, and we need those people too. So again, I think it's kind of that nexus, and I like the analogy used about the Venn diagram, right? Of what's your passion, what's your strengths, and allow people to kind of help organize your organization in a way that people are truly doing what they're passionate about, for the most part, right? And what they're good at, because if you can really build on your strengths, I'm a big strength finder person, then I find that it keeps everybody, really happy and leads to successful organizations. So that was a little roundabout, but hopefully that was illustrative and helpful.
Hey, Patrick, can I jump in here? I don't know if you want to follow up, but I just want to mention one strategy that I found particularly helpful in my career. Just mention real quickly is for your next question. I highly encourage everyone, read the end of year predictions. And this is kind of a funny thing. People say, oh, come on, predictions are hocus pocus. I don't really get anything. They don't really change very much. But one thing I found in the cyber industry is that all the top companies give away tons of free research that you would spend thousands, even hundreds of thousands of dollars for during, in reports. And they give it away at the end of the year. I mean, from over the years, not so much semantic anymore, but FireEye, and you go right down the list, all the top companies, Trend Micro and WatchGuard, and I could go through the list. And I would find over the holidays at Christmas, and I'm somewhat like Michelle, that I like to do a lot of research too, but I was reading these reports, I would learn a ton. So I actually started putting them together in ranking the reports from all the different vendors and putting them together in a summary. You can go to look at mine, but look at other people do the same thing. Just go. It's free. It's a great way, between Christmas and New Year's every year. But one of the things it does is it gives you real quickly, certain things jump up, and it's not just wild predictions. What most of them are is really connecting the dots of what's going to be hot in the coming year. They may be wrong about, be it 2024, it may be 2025, but the trends, the things that come out in those reports, at the end of the year reports around security predictions, are really, really insightful. In my opinion, some of the reports are really helpful in say, where should I focus my time and my energy and my team in the coming year around what's going to, what are the biggest, trends, what are the biggest threats, what's going to happen, how's the Ukraine war impacting cybersecurity, all these kinds of things around what's happened and where we're going next. I find those prediction reports to be very, very helpful.
Thank you, Dan, for that addition. Dr. Erdal, what would you tell me with this statement? I hear Dan, he's reading over the holidays, but possibly my team members don't want to read up on reports during the holidays. They want to do it during work time. Michelle likes to fiddle around on Google and search stuff, but if I have a large team, I have 30 people in my team. If 10 of those people spend 4 hours per week reading up on stuff, I lose a full week of work. Would you like to comment on that?
There is a great saying, right? Between HR and leadership. So I think the leadership is asking for money for trained people, and HR says, what if the people leave? And then the leader says, what if we don't train the people and they stay? So I think it's a paradox. Look, you work yourself, right? Now, I always do empathize myself. I mean, you as the manager, and you didn't become manager from day one. You spent years to get into position where you are now. And if you, sometimes, look, I agree. It's if you in a tight schedule and you have a deadline and you're just about to miss deadline, spending 4 hours might be a wrong priority. But when you put it throughout of the year, I believe it's really, really important that your team has the time to invest themselves, because this is investing into your company, into your success as well. Back to my example, just imagine your team doesn't spend 40 hours improving themselves, and they bludge that 40 hours at 4 hours per day on playing solitaire or something else. Somehow you miss which one is more important. Of course, it's your job as manager to ensure that the task has been done, but I'm a big believer on investing time of employees in themselves so they can help to contribute to business to grow better. And just to add, if your team doesn't like to read, there is tons of YouTube or other videos that they can watch. If they don't want to read, there is like Michele has just said, there is many hands-on components, some free, like for example, we at Xcitium, I just built the OpenEDR training. OpenEDR is a free EDR platform. And I created a training where people can just go and learn about EDR for free. And the platform itself is for free. What I'm trying to say is, if you don't like to read, go watch the videos. If you don't like to watch the videos, at least do what Michele does, Google, Bing, whatever, and try to learn, or forget about everything. Use ChatGPT to get the advisors, because otherwise you're going to be quickly outdated. As you know, the hackers, they always use new sophisticated methods to get into our organizations.
Right, and I fully tend to agree and would like to comment. If you don't like to read and don't like to watch the YouTube videos, there's also audiobooks available from certain platforms where
Correct.
you can listen books written by some of our panelists, I assume, that you can follow as well. I'm having a blast, but time is going quickly, and we're starting to run out of time. I want to do a quick round of response. Just one word answer, and I'll start with Dan. You can just answer with one word. In an area of remote work and increased digitalization, what is the most effective way for us as security leaders to protect our company? Sorry, that was on mute, I think. Then I think you're still on mute.
I apologize. No, the word is communicate.
Communicate. All right, communicate. Alexandre, what's your word?
Well, educate.
Educate.
Yes.
Dr. Erdal.
Collaborate.
Collaborate. And Michele?
I would say the new norm, if you put that all together in a hashtag.
New norm in a hashtag. Great. So if somebody asks me, how do I keep the company secure when I have a remote workforce, I use communicate, educate, collaborate. It's the new norm, and we ditch multi-factor authentication. Alexandre, care to respond?
Oh, well, what can I say? I mean, that's in a very nutshell. But I think, I mean, we have to, well, I mean, you have to deep dive a little bit, I guess. But I think if we have to do it in one word, I think there was at least good answers. And I think all of them have some truth about it. So yeah, definitely. I mean, it's always also a kind of a mixture about using good technology in one way, and on the other hand, also looking at that, I guess, user skills and user behavior. So and obviously in all those words. So yeah, so I think it's really a mixture, but I think it's a good overall, and I'm sure everybody of us had to deal with that kind of problems. I mean, we all know that a couple of years back, things have to speed up very quickly. So they couldn't just, some of us were, I guess, also lucky and had already some technical solution in the background up and running. Others, I guess, less. But at the end of the day, it's really a combination of all of those words. And yeah, and it's and it will all, well, as we all know, it will always be. So I mean, the bad side is never sleeping, and yeah. But the good on the other hand, the good thing is also that we can also obviously use, well, as we already heard in the beginning, collaboration. So don't think you're alone out there. But yeah, coming back to the question, I think these are definitely good words, and yeah, and work with them. And so,
thank you so much. Before we go into the round of questions, we round up this this panel for now, and over to you, Hijrika.
Thank you so much, everyone. Actually, we have got so many good feedbacks, and a few of our audience, they are about to like they have to leave the session because it's a 1.5 hour session, and they have requested that to like conduct a second webinar on this topic. So hope we can do that. So before we start our Q&A session, I would like to announce today's webinar is in sync with our CISO certification. Certified Chief Information Security Officer is an executive level program that covers what you should know about information security from an executive management point of view. It combines all the components required for the C-level position, including audit management, governance, IAS controls, human capital management, strategic program development, and financial expertise. Over 6,000 CISO jobs opening, and an experienced and certified CISO professional in US can earn between 2,000 to 260,000 US dollar. Eligibility criteria for CISO is minimum 5 years of experience in any 3 of the domain, which will be governance and risk management, information security controls, compliance and audit management, security program management and operations, information security core competencies, strategic planning, finance, procurement, and vendor management. If you are interested to know more, kindly take part in the poll which is going to conduct right now. Let us know your preferred mode of training, and we will reach out to you. So right now we will be taking our questions. Patrick, over to you.
All right. See, the poll is still progressing. Obviously, I must say CISO. Thank you for that. From the get-go of that, the whole training started. Any more CISOs on the panel? Well, I encourage you to take a look because
Me
it's
too.
really great stuff.
I'm too sorry. I was muted. Yes, I'm also a CISO since the first version.
As well.
And
Yep.
I can proudly say that I was in the, I was in the advisory board when it was first established.
Okay. And Dan, you too?
Yes, correct. I'm also CISO, and yeah, been a part of the team for a while with ECCouncil, and it's great training.
Great, Brian. Great stuff. Yeah, I have all my regional security officers trained as CISO as well. So yeah, really like it. So first question I see here coming in. I don't see the name of the person who asked the question. Sorry about that. But it's still hard to get in with the gatekeeping. He has done courses, or she loves learning, but the role is difficult. So the question here is, and possibly I want to pop that one to Michele. Michele, quick advice for somebody who wants to get into the industry.
Yeah, I would say I think a great resource is the NIST cybersecurity, the it's on this website. I always forget the name of this thing. If you go on this website and you look for workforce, you will find that the National Institute of Standards and Technology have listed out about over 100 jobs in cybersecurity, and they also provide the job description for these jobs. They provide training and educational resources and things like that in order to see, how you, in certifications, to see how you might navigate in that direction. But I would say before that, the most important thing I think is kind of, when you go on there and take a look, is reach out to somebody on LinkedIn who has the job and say, hey, I see that, not to get a job necessarily, but just to have a conversation. Like am interested in making a career transition. I just spoke with a woman the other day who was a restaurateur. She owned a restaurant and for Polish food, and was very successful during the pandemic even, and she decided to sell it. So she sold it and she started to retool herself and went to a very good university in the DC area in order to get some credentialing. And now she's talking to people in the field to say, hey, I'm new to cybersecurity. I really like pen testing and red teaming. Is there somebody that that I could talk to learn more about what that actually looks like as a job, and look into potential internship careers. I know when I pivoted over 20 years ago, so I was in grad school for IO psychology, and I had the good fortune of working at the National Reconnaissance Office in security education. And my angle was how to build security education systems that appealed to people. And along that way, I was like, oh, well, the security thing is pretty interesting. And the National Reconnaissance Office is in the intelligence community. So kind of had an inside track there before there were degrees. And then kind of just focused my work on learning more about that and taking on more responsibilities in cybersecurity. So, that was over 20 years ago, so it takes a while to build. But I think it's just really kind of being curious, asking questions, and sometimes you find out that you don't like something. And that's really important, right? Before you invest too much time in it, that, day to day, that doesn't really look like what I thought it would. So I think, it's important to just kind of have some conversations to feel out what direction may be most appealing to you.
All right. And Alexander, what would your advice be if you want to get into the industry?
Well, as we already discussed before, I mean, if it's really your passion, then I think you can show. It should be possible, definitely also to show it from. Well, hopefully it shouldn't. Well, you should get into it, but if not, I think it was really also a good point by Michele to ask somebody on LinkedIn. I think not just to directly if they have a job opening, but if you see that somebody is actually in that field or doing the job, you can definitely also get out of their experience some outcomes, or you can also check how was their way to enter the field. And normally, well, I also give advice to younger students to come to me and to ask me, well, how can I actually enter there? Then I can actually give them some, well, I always ask them, well, where do you want to go? I mean, if you want to go into a bigger company or smaller, and what kind of industries, or as I said before, what kind also you want, or maybe even startup, or an industry like cryptocurrency. So basically, yeah, that really depends. But I really think you should well look at others who did their way. I think that's also a good point, but also really also keep your passion. And as Michele said, I mean, if maybe you will learn about something you really don't want to do, or I mean, it sounds good on paper, but if once you're really in it, you maybe think, okay, that's not really what I was expecting. So really, that's a good thing. And on the other hand, I mean, do some certification. I just also wanted to say that I'm also a CISO, so I also did it. So that's also an ongoing process. Keep doing things. I also think even at our age and time in our career, you always have to learn. It's an ongoing path. I mean, new things are popping up, and the whole artificial intelligence is the big thing at the moment. So I mean, there's always, as I call it, sometimes I have to play good cop, bad cop. So it's not always. I'm not always. In the old days, we always said no. I think in today we don't only have to say yes, but on the other hand, we should definitely switch, or at least have a look what is the benefit out of it. But as we also know, in terms of the Samsung hack, where some blueprints actually got leaked, And that's another thing. So basically, don't forget about those risks. So it's always a kind of a mixture. But to come back to your question, I definitely think show them what you can do. There are different paths. There are also, I mean, cybersecurity is a huge path. You can don't always expect that on the first day you will become a CISO. Start doing smaller kind of jobs, and the best thing I was lucky enough to have one. If you can have actually a mentor, that's really also a good thing to have. Yeah.
Definitely, I think mentoring is one of the things we, at least the persons with a little bit more gray hair, the persons with 20+ year experience should do more often. Coming to that point, then during the panel, you told me, told us, the audience, get to yes. So getting to yes is that being that enabler. And I don't know if that was the same for you, but for me it was that I was at the police department of no in the past, and I think from your talk, your example on Wi-Fi, you were the same police officer.
Yep.
So what strategy did you utilize to become that enabler and also convince business owners, CEOs, your managers that you are that enabler?
Yeah, it was really peeling back layers of the onion. I didn't finish the end of that story, but I would say those who are coming in late, go back and listen to the story. But we did come up with a plan. We did roll out Wi-Fi. We did 2 years later win the award for top Wi-Fi project in the country, and we did go that route. But it really is a journey, because I had people telling me in my career, okay, you're doing it again, Dan. My management would have to say, go do lunch. I mean, what's one of the strategies is build relationships with the business side, and not just the technology team, not just the security team. Security professionals are great with meeting with other technology professionals and other security professionals, but learn the business, and go do lunch with key business owners and executives. And not just talk about security, talk about the relationships, talk about how the business runs, because if the business fails, you don't need security, right? If the business goes bankrupt, you don't need security. So really learning that, I think people see you as someone, I mean, we always talk about the CISO should be the trusted advisor. So the question to ask is, are people really honestly coming to you for solutions for a wide variety of topics, for how we're going to do governance of Gen AI, of generative AI, how we're going to do new projects, how we're going to do that new tax system, how we're going to implement that new criminal justice system for government, or whatever it might be. And so I think relationships are key, offering options are key, having good benchmarks with your peers can help, and you can say, here's how know your competitors, and in government do a lot with government, how other governments in state and local government or federal government have done this and been successful around the world. So having those examples and having the ability to be able to show here's how this other company did it, here's how this other organization did it, this other nonprofit did it, and really learn from them. So I also like being really involved in external organizations. I think probably all of us are in that. In the United States, it's there's ISSA, there's ISACA, obviously those are around the world as well. But we have InfraGard in the U.S. We've got other NASCIO, Michele mentioned, National Association of State CIOs, variety of different organizations. So knowing what your peers are doing and being able to explain that in a way that you are that trusted advisor, and building that confidence that you're bringing solutions and not just problems.
Yeah, solutions, not problems. That really resonates, especially when it seems that even large companies get hacked. The audience asked about a comment on that even LinkedIn get hacked. Well, it's very specific. I think larger companies even get hacked. That's true. Dr. Erdal, what's your take on that? Even big companies, the monoliths like LinkedIn, get hacked?
And of course, it's not me who's saying that. There's two types of organizations. One, they know they've been hacked. Two, they don't. As I mentioned before, look at the news. I mean, if you are in the cybersecurity industry and you don't know what's happening around you, then you are in the wrong industry. Look, we talked about reading, we talked about audiobooks, but we should also have the habit of looking on what's happening in the industry, who was hacked and how they were hacked. LinkedIn, for example, yes, it was 2012 last time they were hacked, at least which was public, but don't go far away. Microsoft, Amazon, Apple, all of these had data breaches, and or even one of the world's biggest cybersecurity company, FireEye, if you remember, early 2022 they were hacked. So it's okay to get hacked as long as you have a proper disaster recovery policies. You have proper backups. You know how. Look, I always give this example. We always, you know, when you do sport, you fail, or as humans, if you remember little babies, when you were a little baby, or if you have your child, when they start to walk, they didn't start walking perfectly. They fall many times, but every time they learn from their mistakes. And today we all work perfectly, hopefully, most of us actually, unless we have a disability. What I'm trying to say is getting hacked is okay as long as you minimize the impact. And when I say, hey, there's two types of organizations. One, they know they've been hacked. Two, they don't. Assume breach. Again, this was discussed during the panel. Assume that you can get hacked in a second. And for that, try to minimize the impact. It's like when you're driving, you always assume there is going to be an accident. That's why you try to carefully drive, you put your seatbelt in, you try to follow the rules. And of course, then it's a bit of luck as well, because sometimes even if you do nothing wrong, another car can come and hit you, which is out of your control. But if you have your seatbelt on, if you have airbag in the car, for example, this will minimize the impact. Same applies to cybersecurity. If you have backup, if you have defense in depth strategy, if you have vulnerability management, if you have the right strategy, in summary, then you're going to minimize the impact, and hopefully the impact is not going to come in a stage where you have to find another job or you have to close down the business. Will be my answer.
Thank you. And without that answer, I think we all can agree in the panel. I would like to thank our panelists who are joining this and making the time free and contributing to our cybersecurity practice. Thank you so much. And over to you, Itika.
Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for actually this informative session, and our audience also is very happy with the session. And before we conclude from the panel, do you have any message for our audience?
Yeah, one-liner, a message for the audience.
I would say keep learning and get your CISSO.
All right, good. Alexandre.
Yeah, well, as mentioned also before, it's the education is a lot, so just go on, and it's an ongoing path. Whatever you do, hopefully you will also have a lot of passion that also brings you further. And yeah, and thanks for listening to us.
Thank you. Michele?
Yeah, I would just say thank you so much for your time, and just go for it. Just jump in.
Go for it, jump in. Sounds great. Dr. Erdal.
Put your hands on your keyboard. Practice what you learn. Don't just leave it on the videos, on the books, or on the audiobooks. You know, practice. Practice makes you the master.
Thank you so much. And my recommendation would be stay curious.
Thank you
Altogether
so
is the
much.
perfect recommendation, I guess. Altogether is the perfect outcome.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much, everyone, for your messages to our audience. So before we end the session, I would like to announce our next Cyber Talk session, which is career tips for a successful Cybersecurity Transition is scheduled for 28th of August by Professor Yuri, and this session will be expert presentation. To register for this session, please go to our website, which is www.eccu.edu/cyber-talks. The link is given in the chat section, and hope to see you all on 28th of August. Thank you so much for joining, and you all may disconnect your line. Thank you so much, our all speaker and moderator. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.